Today, I am joined by Democrat Judith McCormick Higgins, a former adjunct instructor and a small business owner, and also Kristen Phillips Hill, the Republican incumbent. Thank you both so much for being with us. We do have some rules to go over. We have 3 issues. Each of you will get to respond and offer a rebuttal to your opponent's response. Responses will be limited to 45 seconds, rebuttals 30 seconds. To determine who answers first, we are using alphabetical order of your last names for the first 2 questions and a pre-debate coin flip for the third. So our first issue is about high gas prices. Pennsylvania's gas tax is one of the highest in the nation. It's around 60 cents a gallon. Is that too high? And what's the best way to fund bridge and road repairs and the state police? Dr. Higgins, you answer first.
The gas tax is pretty high, but we do have a lot of roadways in Pennsylvania that do have to be maintained, and that was one of the things that came out of the Build Back Better project, is being able to work on the infrastructure such as the roads. I know that we have looked at different things, but with the money being siphoned off to pay the overtime for state police, it has been an issue. And I think we need to re-examine how we're paying state police and how we're going to make sure that our roads pass, because right now I think Pennsylvania is ranked about a C- for our bridges and roads, which isn't good because we have a lot of roads. There needs to be a plan put into place to make sure that they are all addressed in a timely way and that will be efficient.
All right, Senator Phillips Hill.
Thank you so much for the question. Yes, our gas tax is too high. Yes, too much money was put into the state police when they passed that law in 2014. We've been ratcheting it back. That's important. We want to fund our state police, but that money is for our roads and bridges. There are several other things that we need to look at. First off, we need to look at the way we bid projects. We have a situation with the Mount Rose interchange. That project was overdue and over budget. We can't allow our taxpayer dollars for transportation infrastructure to be wasted by allowing companies that engage in change order scheming to siphon off that money that could be used for other roads and bridges.
Your 30-second response?
I know that that was a concern for her when that whole mess was going on, and most of us felt pretty much the same way, that it was, I think it was a New Jersey firm that was coming in that had done the contract, and we were all kind of like, why aren't we using Pennsylvania sources? But that's about all.
It was a global company. They had acquired a small subsidiary in Maryland, and this is something that a simple Google search would have revealed. We need to do a better job on that. We also need to look at electric vehicles. Electric vehicles aren't paying their fair share. If they were, we would not have to make up that deficit, and we could put more money into roads and bridges.
Our next issue, marijuana legalization. Other states have made recreational marijuana legal. Is this something that Pennsylvania should do? And we begin with the senator.
I stand with law enforcement. I stand with our district attorney. I stand with our county coroner and the vast majority of citizens in the 28th district. I do not support legalizing recreational marijuana. And I will tell you, we have a lot of challenges that we must face. We have great drug addiction problems. We are struggling with mental health issues, many of those exacerbated by the restrictive economic shutdowns by this administration. So we do not need to legalize recreational marijuana.
Same question, Dr. Higgins.
I believe that there is a great potential for resources for revenue to come in from legalization of marijuana. We have opportunities to control it as we do alcohol and cigarettes, and that is going to be a matter of enforcement. But the one thing that I think is most important is removing the stigma of all of the people who have been incarcerated for the use of small amounts of marijuana, because that has screwed up their entire life. They are no longer able to produce as citizens in our communities because they've got that black mark. We've got the ability to expunge their records and to get them as part of the people who can participate in our communities and make it a profitable area as well for our Commonwealth.
30 seconds.
As someone who supported medical marijuana legalization in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, I fear that recreational marijuana legalization will take all the R&D investment out of this important medicine that can heal people.
The problem with that philosophy is that marijuana is also used extensively for PTSD and a number of issues that our veterans are facing, and I don't think it's fair that we only say that only if you have a medical card can you use marijuana, because there are a lot of people who are finding a great deal of mental health care and support using recreational marijuana.
All right, our third issue now, abortion. It's an issue that's up to the states to decide. Where do you stand in a debate over a woman's right to an abortion? And Dr. Higgins won the coin flip, so you will begin.
I will always be pro-choice because there are too many women's reproductive health care issues that we need to be able to address, and the legislation is too restrictive in addressing those issues. Women have the ability to make their own decisions in their lives and what their choices are, what their families are going to be. It's an economic situation as much as it is a healthcare situation. And why aren't men being held responsible as well? Because a guy can get somebody pregnant every day. Women cannot get pregnant every day, but nobody's holding men accountable. They're just saying, oh, it's a woman's problem. We're going to legislate and put women in jail. We're going to put their doctors in jail. I don't want a legislator following me into my medical office. That's not a discussion they belong in.
Same question.
The overwhelming majority of the citizens in the district support and believe in the sanctity of life and support reasonable restrictions on abortion.
You have 30 seconds if you'd like to say more.
According to what I'm reading, none of the stuff that the Republicans are putting out on banning abortion have reasonable accommodations, and that's what we keep hearing. And that's the part that's terrifying, because 50 years ago I fought for this right. I can't believe I'm having to do it again. That my daughters and my granddaughters may have fewer rights than I do as a woman, as an individual, as a citizen, is really appalling. That is not what the United States is about, and most of the people would rather let women make their own decisions.
The final 30 seconds.
The legislation that has been referred to does two very simple things. One, it says, do you believe that taxpayers should pay for elective abortions? I think in these challenging economic times, most people are not supportive of taxpayer dollars going for elective procedures. The other thing that it does is says, who do you want to make decisions with regard to abortion laws? Your elected legislators or the Supreme Court? Right now, there is a case before the court that seeks to make it a right to have an abortion on demand from conception to birth. That's not where the majority of the citizens are.
We are out of time. Thank you both so much for being here for this debate. And you can watch this debate and all the others that we have done online at WGAL.com. Just click on the politics section.